October 1st, the official day now that you can do pumpkin spice stuff. September and before this, that's a joke. No, now you can.
Evidently there's been a spate. It sounds funny, but if you're a farmer, it's really not. But I guess around locally, Brett, there has been a huge amount of people going into fields middle of the night and stealing wholesale amounts of pumpkins.
Really?
There was a local farmer in Ohio that lost $6,000 worth of pumpkins, which I mean,
Wow.
that's a whole season's,
Now,
worth.
I had heard that this season, the pumpkin season was not good. It rained at the wrong time. So the
Probably,
lack
yeah.
of pumpkin prices are going to be up
Yeah,
this year. But
man. $6,000.
wow.
So, I'm sure that farm is upside down
Well,
now.
exactly, and it's not like we didn't lose enough pumpkin patches and pumpkin farms
Yeah,
during COVID.
yeah.
Yeah,
So,
quite frankly, so
I think the same
great.
thing's been happening at apple farms around Ohio
Jeez.
also. People, filling bushels at night, which is just, when you think of the hard work that goes into fruit.
Exactly,
So, it's a
and
a shame. So,
it is, and then again, it's that, okay, why and how do you stop this?
well, it's gotta be for resale.
That's got
But
to
people aren't
be.
making pies,
I'm
right?
well, I guess
$6,000 of pumpkins.
yeah,
That's
that's a lot of pumpkin pie and the wrong pumpkins for pumpkin
Yeah.
pies, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know.
I just don't get that mindset. And the farmers have just got to be kind of going, what the hell?
Right. What do they
What the
have to do?
hell?
Put guards out middle of the night?
Right,
Well, what are you gonna
exactly.
do? Shoot somebody over a pumpkin?
Because Apple Farm, that
Good
you
God.
typically are probably going to lose quite a few apples during apple picking. People going out picking their own, they're eating a couple apples
Deer.
here. I mean, and deer
Deer.
and all sorts of stuff, but not wholesale. Go in and just shake the tree down.
Well, speaking of shakedowns,
Yeah,
the government is currently shut down.
on vacation. Yeah.
Unless as we're
vacation.
speaking,
Yeah.
Chuck Schumer and John
Yeah.
Thune got together and solved this. But where we stand is the House of Representatives passed a budget. It's over in the Senate. The Senate is not concurring. They need 60 votes
Yeah, they've got
to
50,
pass.
55.
They got
Last count I saw?
55,
Yeah.
3 of which are Democrats,
Mhm.
and Rand Paul, in his usual defiant pattern, is voted against
Mm.
the Republican bill because he doesn't like continuing resolutions.
Yeah.
He says either pass the whole budget or don't pass it. But I'm not going to vote for a continuing resolution. And I guess that's what
Yeah.
is up for a vote is a continuing resolution to take us into November, and then we'll have this fight all over again.
All over again.
So we're now currently shut down, which
Mm.
means, of course, Congress is still getting its money.
Oh, yeah.
Its staff largely will get its money.
Yeah.
It's all the federal employees that, like parks, the national parks and places like that, they have a paid vacation
Yeah.
until this is
Well,
until this is solved.
and anything that we can go into that is parks are closed, so we can't go vacation in parks.
No,
I
no
mean, those sorts of
federal
things.
buildings, all the
Right.
tours.
No.
I guess they have
Yeah.
a skeleton crew at places like the IRS and FBI and places that are considered essential to continue to operate
Yeah.
the government.
Yeah.
The post office is still working. It is, not part of the federal budgets entirely.
Mhm.
So some of the post office funding is via its own sales. So they're still open. But many government services will not be available today and until they solve this. And essentially, if I was a federal worker, the only thing I'd be worried about is in the meantime, um, that some of the Doge suggested cuts are going to get made while you're on a paid vacation, involuntary paid vacation. So that's the danger for federal workers is their jobs may some of their jobs may disappear
It might. Yeah, exactly.
while they're out,
Yeah.
and
Whether
that would be one way of cutting the budget.
that's true. That's true. Yeah,
So
exactly. Whether, that was a threat or he was really thinking President Trump
yeah,
made the statement. So, yeah, it's hard to say. I guess We talked before we started recording that it's like this budget stuff and shutdown. It, we almost expect it to happen.
Yeah.
If they were to come up with a solution, we'd almost be in shock.
Yeah.
Rather than the reverse going, "A shutdown? What do you mean a shutdown?" It's now like, another shutdown, another
So
shutdown. It's like, you gotta be kidding me.
most states like Ohio have a balanced budget requirement in the Constitution of our state, and many other states have that as well. The federal government notoriously does not. And,
Yeah,
maybe that is some way to force this every year would be a federal constitutional amendment that the US government it has to have a balanced budget. Now, what the danger of that is, of course, during wartime or a depression, when the government spends more than what it takes in, it would then limit,
yeah,
a constitutional amendment like that. But there ought to be a way. Back in the Bill Clinton days, for a while, they gave the president a veto, a line item veto, and the
mhm,
Supreme Court ruled that that was unconstitutional. And that for a while it worked.
mm,
Clinton and Gingrich would get together and they would figure out what it would take to balance a budget or to come very close to doing it.
yeah,
And they actually did it for a few years, bipartisan.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
by giving the president, the power to delete spending, at his discretion, but that was taken away. So I don't know what will ever solve this, and I think now the divide between, Democrats and Republicans is so poisoned.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
so bad
yeah.
that, they say they didn't even talk yesterday leading up to this, that they
Well,
just postured
yeah,
in front of cameras, but they didn't really talk to each other.
yeah. To me, it looks like a grand opportunity for Trump to come in and get things done. Sit down. I mean, he has reportedly ended 7 wars.
Or
If you can
tried,
or tried.
you know?
If you can end 7 wars around the world, you can sit down with these folks
You would think,
and get it
right?
done.
You would think.
And, when I saw a quote from him, somebody interviewed him back in 2011 saying, "When this stuff happens, it shines poorly on the president because the president can't go in and do that. He can call the meeting and say, 'Gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen,' if there are ladies in there, I don't want to be sexist with it, but it's like, let's get the job done.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous. We're not going to keep continuing to kick the can. We're 5 votes away. It's not like it's,
The power
you
of
know,
here's the problem, and this is why the Supreme Court got rid of the line item
Mm,
veto, Brett, is because the power of the purse, the power to pass a budget lies with
yeah,
Congress.
yeah, it does, yeah,
And
yeah,
and and more specifically, the bills have to start in the House of Representatives.
mhm,
And so the president can do a lot of, bully pulpit stuff, I think is what you're talking about.
yeah, or just private meetings too.
But
Seriously, just call them and having some coffee and let's figure this out.
but
Yeah,
it is it's I this is what the Supreme Court said. He cannot
right,
do things like the line item
right,
veto.
right,
He has to Congress has to do this.
yeah,
This is a power specifically reserved to Congress, and they need to come together. Now, whether the president or somebody on Wall Street or, the Federal Reserve, like there should be somebody who can be a arbitrator here.
yes,
That's what would be,
right, right, yes,
a good thing for the American
yeah,
people. I'm not sure in the poisoned
mm,
atmosphere. Now, you mentioned Trump. I'm not sure he's the right guy because I don't think Schumer and
right, maybe not.
Hakeem Jeffries, they're not gonna deal with him.
Yeah,
Nancy Pelosi would not
yeah,
deal with him,
I like your arbitrator idea, that third
you
party
know?
arbitrator.
Maybe
That's a good idea.
maybe bring
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
guy who runs,
yeah,
the ticker at the Wall Street,
right, well, oh,
bring in the head of,
yeah,
NASDAQ or something and say, "Okay, this is a budget issue. Let's talk mathematics."
yeah.
You know, let let
Well,
let's arbitrate this in private and come up with a
there
solution.
seems to be tons of arbitrators that both unions and business owners agree on
You would think.
that negotiate these
Yeah.
contracts, that negotiate, these problems between union and ownership. You would think the government would be okay with those arbitrators.
Or at
Yeah.
least attempt it. So,
Yeah.
the thing is, to me, I'm with Brett. We're going through this twice a year now,
Yeah.
where they do a continuing resolution, and then right around Christmas, right, there's a big fight at the end of the year because the continuing resolutions are going to run out. So we're going to get a CR passed here, and I think it'll be like a week, maybe 10 days, maybe 2 weeks. But whatever happens here, there will be a CR that gets approved. It's just a matter of what kind of deal behind the scenes they're gonna come up with.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then all they did with the CR is delay the big fight, you know, for later this year.
Yeah.
And we're going to go through this all over again,
Yeah.
where they threaten to shut down the government. And Trump will say, go ahead, I dare you. Go ahead and shut it down, and I'll fire a bunch of your constituents while they're on a paid vacation. And we'll have the same basic fight about Pentagon spending versus social safety net spending. That's what the fight's always about because so much of the money goes to Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security that there is this little discretionary amount left over for transportation, the Department of War, and all the other federal programs is really maybe a third. The 2/3 is already spoken for. It
Mhm.
has to go to Social Security and things that are embedded that the American people are counting on, many retirees, many poor people, in order to survive. And so that spending is baked into the cake, Brett.
Mhm. Right.
They can't
Exactly.
reduce that,
Yeah.
you
Exactly.
know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I
we're
don't
f
think
we're fighting over crumbs,
right,
essentially.
exactly, exactly. Yeah, there's gotta be a better way of doing this. There just has to be because it slows the pro not that I think we all 3 at the table are in agreement that the less government does, the better, of course, but it does stop the progress of good things that the government can accomplish.
Yeah.
But maybe it's you know what, though? Okay, look at on the other side of this. Maybe it's a great distraction that, you know what, who cares? It stops them from doing stupid stuff. Go fight.
Yeah.
It takes you out of the game for 90 days. You're not doing stupid stuff, but fighting over a budget. Good. Nothing bad happens.
I
I don't
so
know. You could look at it that way too,
So I like the
I
silver
don't know.
lining because
Yeah.
what we have all discovered on this show, we've been through several of these shutdowns or threats of them. And what we always discover, right, is life does go
It
on.
does go on. Right.
You know?
It's just frustrating that they can't
Right.
these children cannot figure this out.
It's crazy.
That I guess that's the angst, that I see of it. It's like, "Come on, again?"
Well, some other really interesting things in the news, some budget stuff. So there was this big conference yesterday, and it featured at least half the cabinet, and it was about big pharma in the person of Pfizer
Mhm,
is the first company to sign this agreement with the federal government that henceforth Pfizer is going to give the U.S. government most favored nation status on pricing. So there will essentially be no lower cost in the world available than what the U.S. taxpayer is going to be able to buy drugs for. So in the United States, the largest consumer of pharmaceuticals is Medicare and Medicaid. They Our government buys more pharma than any other entity, more than all the private insurance companies combined. Medicare and Medicaid buy more. And so one part of this agreement, and it starts with Pfizer, and they say the others are going to fall like dominoes because they want to sell their competing drugs that Pfizer has, right? You know, if you're if you're Eli Lilly and you have a competing drug with Pfizer, well, now Pfizer's going to get probably 100% of the
yeah.
sales going to Medicare, Medicaid, unless you likewise compete and lower your prices. So they say the others are going to fall like dominoes. And what this is all about is I've heard of Ohio seniors boarding buses going to Ontario. They go up t they go up to Ontario province in Canada, Toronto or Windsor, right across the border. They gamble a little bit, and then they hit the pharmacies. And they get all of their prescriptions filled that are not otherwise covered, or
Mhm.
that have huge copays.
Right.
They go to Canada and they get, their drugs at a third or a fourth of the price that they would pay here. So the idea is American consumers are always getting stuck with the developmental costs of new drugs. So we pay the highest drug prices of almost any country in the world. And then when Pfizer or Eli Lilly or whoever it is sell to the Europeans or the Asians or the South Americans, those folks in other countries pay a far less price because their governments insist on a low schedule because most of those countries have single
Mhm.
payer or socialized medicine, and so they're dealing directly with the government as opposed to here where they're dealing with private insurance except for Medicare and Medicaid.
Mhm.
Well, that all changed yesterday, and the head of Pfizer was in there to sign the agreement. Now, the second part of this is, well, what about us in the private sector that do have insurance? The federal government has set up a website so that the same low prices that Medicare, Medicaid are going to get also go to private insurance companies. And the federal government is going to operate this website. And if you have no insurance, right, or if your drugs are not covered by, like it's some experimental drug, Robert Kennedy at the press conference pointed out there was a case of a person who spent 180,000 a year on a single drug, on his or her prescription for a single drug. Worked 3 jobs to pay the
Hmm.
180,000 out of pocket. Well, that'll be gone. That that person will be able to buy on this federal website, that, over-the-counter drug or not unreimbursed drug if it's prescribed, that person will be able to buy it at the most favored nation prices. So I think it's good news,
Yeah,
you
sounds like
know?
it. The only part I don't like is that it's a government website. The government doesn't really have a great track record
Well,
of running
yeah.
websites very well.
God,
That's
remember
it's the only thing
Obamacare
I know,
rollout?
I know.
Good God, what a
That was
disaster
a
that was.
rough
Oh,
rollout. So I
yes.
hopefully they don't,
Yeah.
engage with the same company that built that one out. I mean, just from the outside looking in, that sort of thing.
Right.
But no, I think it's got potential, in regards to helping out. And I think, this could, for as much as Trump, pounds on Obamacare, Trump can have a legacy with this if he does it right. I mean,
Yeah,
this is kinda big. If this works well and it does what it's supposed to do, I think the big thing will be, well, one of the things, it'd be interesting to see how, the big pharma does handle R&D. That's a lot of money that won't be coming in. It'll be interesting to see how that
right.
that plays out. Um,
And he mentioned that
but
the head of Pfizer said
yeah,
that that was a negotiating point. That was one of the major obstacles.
yeah,
And apparently, what they're going to work out, Brett, is some sort of protection for these drug companies on R&D costs.
okay,
And whether that is through some kind of federal grant through the FDA,
yeah,
something where either the government will underwrite those costs or allow them to get reimbursement in by raising the prices to Europeans as well as us
okay.
so that it'll be evened out.
Well,
Because right now
yeah.
the Europeans are getting off without paying it.
Right. I wonder if it, again, I didn't go into the details, and I think a lot of the details aren't out yet, but I wonder if, that it negates having generic forms of medication.
That might be another
Be
protection
if it's that
is
low,
extend
there's
it.
no there's no,
Yeah.
incentive for these other companies to create a generic form.
Yeah, extend their right to
Exactly.
having an
That could
exclusive,
help.
and
And
that
if the
that's
prices are
probably
low enough,
I think that is one of them.
maybe.
I think you landed on that.
So that could work. I'm just trying to play it out. It's like, okay, how does this work out well for
Right.
everyone? And the pharmaceutical companies. I
They
mean,
have to get
they
reimbursed for the
have to.
research
They
or else they're
do.
not gonna do it.
Right. They're not. And we
I mean,
need
they're not charities.
right. And there are citizens of the United States, citizens of the world that they have medical problems. Huge medical
Right.
problems
Well, and
that were not, some were not put upon themselves. They were born with,
well,
these problems,
and
and
many are
it's
not
tough.
solved yet, and so they
Right.
need to do
It's
that
tough.
research. That Dr. Mehmet Oz that runs Medicare for the federal government now, celebrity doctor, ran for senator over in Pennsylvania against Fetterman. He
Mhm.
was at the press conference, and the statistic that he announced that really struck me. He said a third of all prescriptions are not filled due to the cost to the patient.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he said, and I
I
never
could
thought
believe
of
that.
this.
I could believe
This
that.
is another huge problem
Yeah.
why prices, if they go down, he's saying, then people who don't have the money or choose not to spend it on prescriptions, they will be more easily able to afford these
Mhm.
prescriptions.
Yeah.
Maybe their copays are high, or maybe it's not covered, like it's an experimental drug. So it's prescribed, but they can't afford to pay for
Mhm.
it. Now they hopefully will be able to. But that's so think of that. You've got a pool, say 100 sick people, 33 of them they all get a prescription, all 100. A third of them, or 33 in my example, a
Mhm.
third of them don't go get the drug
Yeah.
that would take care of their health.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that's terrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the richest country in the world, that a third of the people that get a prescription don't get it filled because it costs too much.
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
when you look at it that way, it's an even more compulsory
Yeah.
way to view that something has to get resolved here.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so I
Yeah.
hope this is
Yeah. I hope
a big
it
thing,
it
and this
sounds it
does it.
sounds good. It's just it's in the execution and uh in the final run, price comparison. Did that price go down?
Yeah,
We'll see.
right.
The only thing I give an A plus for the effort.
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously, because it certainly does solve a problem that affects everyone. Doesn't matter blue, RDI, whatever you want to call yourself. This is a thing that touches everyone. You know.
Well, couple other things in the news. You mentioned in show prep about the
Yeah.
Pete Hegseth speech, where he brought in somewhere around 850 generals and admirals from around the world for um, a speech, a presentation that he gave, kind of George Patton style, with a big American flag behind him, and it looked like it was right out of the movie. I was waiting for George C. Scott to walk out and join him on stage, but to some people, like Sunny Hostin on The View yesterday, she said it was not uplifting. That the idea that there, I don't know if you want to call it fat shaming, but he basically told the generals and admirals, not only are the troops going to get in shape, but you guys too. I don't want to see any fat generals or admirals. So everybody's going to have to pass a physical training test twice a year, including the general officers themselves. So I didn't hear a lot of applause during that part of the speech.
Well, there wasn't much applause through the whole thing, which I thought was odd on a lot of
Well,
commentators because that's not the decorum
yes,
to applaud. So it's
they
like
should not.
they're not going to.
No, it's like when the president gives
Whatever.
his State of the Union, you'll notice the Supreme Court and the admirals and generals at the State of the Union do not clap.
They don't. I
And that's
mean,
not their role. They're not to be
right.
political cheerleaders
No.
for a policy.
Right.
But at any rate,
Yeah.
Haig says to me, and then I'll
Yeah.
turn this over to Brett, but I thought the nugget of what Hegseth said was terrific. That's my opinion. And most of the war fighters that I saw making commentary agreed that the woke concept, where certain groups um, don't have to meet a military standard that is a single standard, but that there are several standards set for people in different walks of life or people in different shapes and sizes or different even colors and genders. And I'm thinking, well, that's all nuts because on the battlefield, if a Chinese or Russian soldier is doing their best to take out an American soldier, I don't think they're concerned about anything other than that person's wearing camouflage. And whether or not they're a woman or a man, or they came from the inner city or from a farm, I don't think any of that matters. Uh, what matters is the American soldier, man or woman, black or white, Hispanic, Arabic, whatever their ethnicity or religion or non-religion, is that person competent? Do they meet the standards across the board for a fighter pilot or to hump artillery ammunition up the hill to a howitzer or a Navy SEAL? Did they do all their scuba stuff to the same standard? I think that what he said is if women can meet those standards, fine. And that's where I'm at. Fine. I'm colorblind, I'm gender blind. Just here's a standard. It's like firefighters or police. There should be one standard, and whoever meets it, and whoever doesn't.
Mm.
And to me, it's just that simple.
Yeah, yeah. I did not disagree with anything, uh, Hegseth talked about. I just think, uh, the showness of it may not have been necessary to gather them all in one place to show this. I think this could have been done differently. Um, that's all. But no, I don't disagree with any of it. I just like, did we really have to bring them all together to do this sort of thing? It seemed like more of a Pete Hegseth show than anything else. But what he said is fine. I mean, he is the secretary and he's laying out the law, that sort of thing, and in regards to what needs to be done, perfectly fine. I thought it was he made some comments I thought were odd that this was in the all this that is the problem that being is has been in the making for decades. That you just told your commander in chief that he was part of the problem over the last few decades. But I don't know if decades or not, that sort of thing. But at the same time, I like I said, the comments he made and such fine, it just doing it there and how it was done, little odd. I thought that's my personal opinion. I was a little concerned about President Trump though. He did not look good. His eyes were sleep. He looked odd.
He doesn't get a lot of sleep and he eats like crap. I
I
mean,
he did, and just like,
and he referenced himself
wow.
as being fat. So he is a little down on his health.
Yeah, he did
Um,
not
his
he looked
ankles swell. Apparently, he's got some kind of
man,
recurring situation, and his doctors, I guess, a few weeks ago disclosed what this condition is, and it's something that causes swelling, and you can see it in his joints and
mm,
his hands and his ankles.
yeah,
So he is going through some kind of medical challenge himself, and
something because
and
he did
and he's aging. He's in his
yeah,
80s. I
yeah,
mean,
he did not he looked tired.
yeah.
He did, and
Isn't he now the oldest president we've ever
I
had?
think it might be. Yeah, exactly, yeah, and I thought it showed too in just his speech, what he did, it was just that kinda rambling. And I don't mean Alzheimer's rambling. I'm not going
No,
there. I'm not going there.
he's
I
always
know
been a
I
rambler.
know he has been, and I gave his speech about a half an hour, and I had to I can't do this. I just can't because you're giving me a headache. You're
Well,
all over
didn't
the place,
didn't he
you
wasn't
know?
like at the Republican National Convention, wasn't he scheduled for like a 45-minute speech,
And yeah,
and it went an hour and a half or
hour and
so?
a half, yeah. So he pushed the hour envelope on this one too, but I don't
Yeah.
I don't know. To me, the whole thing that happened yesterday, are the military, are the generals any more accountable because they were in one place, or that Pete Hegseth could have done this in a different way? I don't know. I just it's that whole thing. But what his content of what he said, if there's a problem, we got to fix it.
I think
Yeah.
the AP looked into the cost. It was $6 million to bring them all together, which is nothing. I mean,
I know it's not,
which
but
is it's
I
nothing. I
know,
mean,
I
six
know,
million bucks.
but we keep, you know what? But then we keep saying these 6 million is nothing here. This isn't nothing. This isn't nothing. But all of a sudden, adds into $1 billion of stuff that we did. I'm not meaning military. I don't mean that, but I mean all the
Right.
little things. It's like when did? But I know, but
They're being
we're at an age where we're saying $6 million doesn't mean anything. Though
so they're on.
that's too.
So
Oh my God.
whether they're at some base in Okinawa or yeah, sitting at the Pentagon, they're already being paid. So they're on
Yeah.
salary. So it wasn't a dime extra in terms of their salary. What it
No.
cost
No.
was
No.
fuel for airplanes to
Sure.
bring them in, and
Oh yeah.
I think it was at Quantico,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is in Virginia,
Virginia.
I
Yeah.
believe,
Mhm.
so that they could have. They could have this big meeting where
Mhm.
the FBI and the Marine Corps train. And I do see. So this is always people debate this, and there's people in convention business that will tell you when you have people there in person, it is different than a Zoom meeting. So I think maybe every now and then you bring together the generals and you sit them maybe in their place, because I think it is good for the military to be reminded, whether it's a Democrat or a Republican, that civilian control is over the top of the military, that the elected president and his sec def outrank all of you guys, and that our military is unlike a lot of other governments like China, where the or Russia, where the military can overrun the civilian control. In America, it doesn't work that way. And I think part of this was Pete saying, look, I'm just a dumb old army captain who is now sec def. I never got to the rank that you all have achieved. But guess what? I'm your boss because I was placed in this role by the duly elected president.
Mhm.
And so I think some of this was him as a war fighter, because he is a combat vet who saw combat and served overseas in war zones himself. And so I think he is saying he wanted to impress upon them that they work for the citizens of the United States. They don't work for the military, and that we are a civilian run military.
Yeah.
So I think that was part of it. Was it unusual? Yes.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Does it matter? Maybe. I think he told people that are deeply disturbed that the woke policies have come to an end, that they need to do the honorable thing. And I expect some of them will resign. Some of these generals and admirals stake their entire career on the idea that they were going to create roles in combat for, let's face it, women, okay, that could not do the same amount of push ups or run as far or carry as much weight. And this has happened at fire departments. And as I pointed out, on 9/11, 343 New York Fire Department personnel died. Do you know how many of them were in those buildings and died that were female? I can tell you, none, zero. They were all men, all 343. And why was that? Is it because we hate women? Obviously not. What the hell are you talking about? It is because only males, okay, of a certain body frame and a certain weight can carry those oxygen tanks and those fire hoses the hell up 60 stories, right? Women can't do that. Maybe one woman in 1,000 could do it. And if she can, God bless her, she should be on the fire department or she should be a U.S. Marine. But we have tricked ourselves into thinking that physically, and this is a problem with the trans athletes competing in the Olympics with women and in, NCAA, is we're not equal. The genders are not equal physically. And this is just an acknowledgement of reality. It's not an acknowledgement of intrinsic worth. It's not an acknowledgement of civil rights. It's not an acknowledgement of any of those things, because women are just as important, obviously, duh, and have just the same amount of rights, duh, as men. But They cannot pick up an artillery shell for an entire afternoon, right? Humping ammo up a hill to a 155 howitzer. They can't do that job. Again, maybe 1 in 1,000. And if she can do it, she ought to be able to do it. And that's what Hegseth said. So that, let's face it, some of these generals and admirals are going to resign. And happy days. I wish them a good retirement. They need to go because it ain't playing around in the military. Other people's lives depend on a soldier being competent and being able to do the job.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, I agree. Exactly.
It's
Yeah.
just common sense.
Yeah.
The name of this show.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He had mentioned something, and I wanted to dig a little bit deeper in regards to the recruitment numbers, the goals that were made, which are great. And I thought, why were we missing them in previous years? Because every presidential 4-year term up and down, a lot of it's based on the economy. If the economy is humming, a lot of people, young people, don't go into the military because it's not competitive. But they said in the response to difficulties, the DoD increased pay and bonuses. Good for them, which is great. You know what? Those men and women don't get paid enough, even with that increase.
No, they
They don't.
Neither
I
do
read
cops
that
and
going,
firemen.
Exactly. First responders do not.
Generally are underpaid.
They generally are. Prep courses, the programs like the Army's Future Soldier Prep Course help applicants who fall short of fitness and academic standards to meet the requirements. So, helping them without lowering, they're helping them get there.
Which is great.
Exactly. No.
Which is great.
It's not cheating the system. It's like,
no.
Let's help you get there. If
Right.
you want to serve your country and this is your calling, let's get you there.
Hey, it's like getting your GED.
Yeah.
If your grade school did not teach you how to read and you're trying to get your GED, so then you got to go do some courses to catch up.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong. That is not a stain on a person's record as far as I'm concerned.
No, exactly.
If anything, it shows that they're gutsy and they want to go back and get the additional military training so that they can pass boot camp or whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
In the same way with the GED, it shows that you've got guts, that you want to stick to it, and that you're not a quitter, which is fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. And a couple others, they updated recruiting strategies, just using digital better, basically to target those that they want to get in front of. And then faster waiver processing. Apparently, the process for approving routine medical waivers was preventing delays that caused potential recruits to lose interest. So they're kind of like wasting time.
Right.
Like, again, if you have a young man, a young woman who wants to serve their country, not that I don't want it to be a rush job, but it's one of those, why are you making them wait?
Right.
Let's get them in here and again, it's that personal journey, that personal goal that they want to serve their country. Okay, let's get rid of the hurdles. Let's do it. So I think that's there was some good implementation of some better strategies.
I'll throw another one out there.
Good. Yeah.
The government is more and more interested in non-citizens, young men and women, let's say from Mexico or from Canada or from, wherever, Taiwan, that want to come and serve in the U.S. Armed Forces as a way to citizenship. I think that's great. Go. I have no problem with that at all. And I think if a young person from another country says, you know what, if it gets me on the path to citizenship quicker for me and my family, and I want to serve honorably as a sailor, soldier, Marine, Coast Guardsman, fantastic. That's great. And apparently we have a number of Hispanic soldiers in the U.S. Armed Forces who are non-citizens. I know that blows people's minds, but that's a real thing. There are people serving in your Army, the United States Army, who are not American citizens. And most people would go, what in the hell are you talking about? But that is a fact. And what they get out of that is a faster path to citizenship, which is all right with me.
Yeah, exactly. No, for sure. Yeah. We want to spin this back to home, Ohio. There was a property tax force update. Governor DeWine put together some some task force to take a look at property taxes.
Yeah,
So
you guys may
oh
have
my gosh.
recalled during the budget bill that we have a line item veto in Ohio, okay? That the governor can do that. And Governor DeWine vetoed 67 specific property tax relief measures that were in the budget bill. So so the House and the Senate, Republicans and Democrats worked out these 67 reforms, and DeWine he eliminated all 67. Only one of those was overridden in the House, the Ohio House, but it has not been overridden in the Senate. So his veto still stands, even on the one thing that the House at least was able to override, because the Senate has not agreed to it yet, and maybe will never agree to
Mm.
it. So this committee that Brett speaks about came out with its report yesterday, and they have 20 recommendations. And I won't bore you with them, except to say that almost all 20 of them were this
Or what
were
he wrote off. Oh my
were the
God.
were they were almost identical to the 67 that he had line item.
Jeez.
So Bill Seitz and Pat Tiberi, two Ohio veteran politicians that now have other jobs. They're both lobbyists now. They were the co-chairs of this. They looked into it. They met, I think, 10 times in between July and September of this year, and came up with these 20 recommendations. And here's the problem. So maybe you're not in Ohio and you don't know this. Ohio is 40th in the country for household income. So we're at the bottom, right? We're in the bottom 20% of states for household income, right? Guess where we are on property tax? We're the 8th highest. Our property taxes in Ohio are more than taxpayers pay in California and New York. They are they are under us in terms of the rate. So what's the average house? Say if you say you have say you're a widow and your husband has died and left you a 50-acre farm out in the middle of what was once nowhere, and now there's a mega project there, and they've revalued your property from, say, 150,000 to now it's $1 million, right? But you're still an 80-year-old little widow getting Social Security as your sole means of income, right? So you're sitting on this property that's worth $1 million, right? They say, and you're only getting maybe 12 to 15,000 a year from Social Security. Okay. The average amount on the value of your house in Ohio is 1.5%. Okay. So if you have $1 million property, right, that's 15 grand. Okay. A year. And maybe your income's 15 grand. So where do those little old ladies go get their 1.5% on average for residential property and agricultural property?
Yeah.
Where do they go get that 15 grand? Well, here come the vultures. And you know what they do? Oh, Harriet, you can live out your days in your little farm. All we want, right, is to buy it from you at some extremely favorable price and terms, and we'll pay the property taxes for you. And so, suffering in her older years, these people sign these things basically with their hand, like their arm is twisted.
Yeah.
They don't have a lawyer there to protect them. They don't have their
'Cause they
maybe
can't afford the lawyer.
they can't afford, and they don't even know they're getting screwed,
Right.
right? And so you've got, companies which I could name, but I won't name, right? That come in and do this kind of thing. And it's routine. And this happens time and time and time again to our elderly and to our, let's face it, young families that maybe bought their first house
Mm.
and they can't pay their property taxes. I mean, you could very easily see a young roofer or plumber goes out and buys a $150,000 house, and now it's revalued as $1 million property. Well, he's still making 60 grand a year and he's got 2 kids and a wife, right? How in the hell is he going to pay the $15,000 a year tax, a property tax? So this committee has not addressed those inequities. They
Mm,
talk about, they talk about homesteading and they talk about some kind of appeals board. They talk this, that, and the other thing. What they're not talking about, and what DeWine, the reason he line item the 67 reforms, is they don't want to do what really needs to happen, and that is an across the board cut. That's what needs to happen.
mhm.
Whether you're young or old, widowed or married, or whatever it is. And number two, the other thing is, if you are in one of these mega project areas, you should not be taxed at the new revised rate, in my opinion. You should be taxed at the pre-existing rate with some inflationary adjustment that other Ohioans are having to pay. But the idea that overnight your property skyrockets to some huge amount, and therefore we're going to extract a huge increase in dollar amount at the same percentage, but it's a huge dollar amount increase that nobody can afford except wealthy people, right? Like the people coming in and paying the $1 million for the property. But what about the guy who wants to stay in the school district, that has kids and family and friends, and he's not going anywhere? It doesn't matter what they say his property's worth. He's not going anywhere. All you've done is forced him out of the community if he can't pay that, or if the old widow can't pay that. And that is, to me, completely unfair. And it's part of the way Jobs Ohio, if they've got money to underwrite these programs for big Intel and and Microsoft and Google and Meta, then they should be funding, if they don't cut these property taxes, Jobs Ohio and Intel and the people benefiting from these mega projects, they need to underwrite the cost to the existing people, the people who built that community that they're now taking advantage of. And
But
that's the end of my speech.
but that will never happen because Jobs Ohio exists as its own little island
Yes,
that untouchable. We don't know
untouchable.
what the deals are that they've made. We can't hold them accountable for anything because
Can't audit them.
we can't audit
Dave
them.
Yost can't
So
audit.
we could tell them that they're going to help with the taxpayer. We can't hold them accountable for it though.
No,
Yeah, ultimately. So I love that idea, but it's frustrating. It's like, but it's not a viable idea.
that's
We
right.
can't do it. They're the one that caused the problem. Let's call it that, quote unquote,
Right.
by allowing the big eyes to come in to redevelop, and now on a, I don't know what kind of timetable they're on, if Intel will even exist in Ohio, who knows?
Who knows, right?
But
NVIDIA just,
I don't know.
spent a bunch
I
with them.
don't.
So who knows?
I hope it does for the sake of just getting it done and moving on. But there's certainly a lot of cloud of what the hell is going on there. But yeah, there's no accountability. We can tell Jobs Ohio, you're going to be helping. It's like, yeah, snub your nose at them because
Right.
we can't hold it. They're a private entity. They're a private entity, so
Yep.
can't do it.
And
So
they
yeah,
have the exclusive right to run the Ohio Department of Liquor
right,
Control franchise
yeah,
until the year 2053. And yet our own auditor can't audit them.
yeah,
It's unbelievable.
yeah. It
The
what a
other thing,
strange bedfellows. Yeah,
where DeWine and Jobs Ohio are playing with fire here. Okay, they're playing with fire because there is a citizen group, as we speak, the Ohio Citizens on Property Tax Reform, or whatever the hell they call themselves. There's a citizens group that is gathering signatures on a petition to place on the ballot a constitutional amendment that will prevent, if passed, that would prevent Ohio from even having a property tax. It would, the proposed amendment would eliminate the property tax mechanism for the state of Ohio and its subdivisions, meaning schools,
mm,
fire departments, you name it, no more property tax. So they are playing with fire here. If they don't come out, if Governor DeWine and the legislature don't come to some kind of term, some agreement and do substantial property tax reform. My prediction is that that is going to pass. That if you put on the ballot that people don't have to pay property taxes anymore, oh my God, they're going to vote for that. They're
Yeah.
going to, and it may be ignorant of them. It may be uninformed. It may be the wrong thing to do, just like they voted in abortion and cannabis. Okay. They did that too. That's now in our Constitution. They're going to vote this in my opinion, unless DeWine gets his act together.
And first of all, you saying that, yeah, DeWine getting his act together, he has no incentive to do so. He's done in a little over a year. It's done.
He's a
He's
lame
out.
duck.
He's a lame duck. Not that he couldn't get it done, but why? Why?
Right.
If
Hey, Vivek, what is your
well,
position?
I was just going to say, if Acton or Vivek,
yeah,
if you don't jump on this, the first one in wins, because again, it's one of those, it affects everyone.
that's right.
It can be a non-political, it doesn't have to be Republican, doesn't have to be Democrat. It's that jump on this idea and run with it. And the first one in wins. You will, Acton probably has more of an incentive to address this and really push it than Vivek does, quite frankly. I think so. In regards to the numbers, or her being behind potentially, or that sort of thing, or being the de facto, he's the go-to
Yeah.
for a lot of press conferences versus DeWine. We've already talked about
Right.
that with riots and such in different cities around Ohio a few months ago. If one of them jump on this, they could have the right answers. They could win it. They could get the vote.
I think a lot of what voters really resent is how opaque and complicated these tax measures are on the ballots. Like when you go vote for a combined fire district, let's say, and they mislabel, in order to cause you to think that they're going to go out of business, they call it like an emergency levy, right? And so one of the 67 provisions that DeWine, line item was that you can't call a measure an emergency. Okay. It's just a tax levy. The idea that you're going to label it an emergency tax levy, there's no language in revised code that defines what an emergency is. And so people just do that, in order to confuse the voter, frankly, and get the voter to think, oh my God, I'm not going to have a fire department because there's this emergency tax levy on the ballot. So they vote for it. And apparently, Ohio has thousands and thousands of these sewer districts, fire districts, schools. We have over 800 school districts of one kind or another, or boards, county boards, local school boards, et cetera. There are thousands of these tax entities. And, a lot of times when people see it for the first time, it's when they're in the voting booth. And it's very hard to read and understand. They talk about mills instead of dollars.
Right.
And people don't understand what all that means. And so the voting is, I think the voters are very frustrated. And if you tell them we're going to get rid of all of this mess and just you won't pay any property taxes anymore, it'll all then be sales tax and income tax based, is how. I mean, that's only thing that's left,
and,
right?
and that needs to be discussed out in regards to what does that
That's
mean
a mess too.
That's a mess too. So
Right.
it's one of those, and if it does come up to a ballot, we need to really flesh this out. Going, okay, what does the income tax look like? What does sales
Exactly.
tax looks like?
Right.
And how does it affect you over the next decade?
A lot of work.
What does that mean?
This should not be a flip thing. This should be very carefully analyzed. And let's look at what other states do. There are states without income taxes that just do property tax, like Florida, Texas,
right.
Where Tennessee, where you pay a property tax but no income tax. And this is the flip of that. Yeah. Now we're going to talk about not paying property taxes and pay for everything on fees and on income tax.
Right. Yeah. And it would be interesting.
I don't think it's going to work. But I think I think they'll vote for it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and also, how does it affect attracting? How does it affect what jobs Ohio does in regards to?
They are going to cause a mess for
I
themselves.
I think I just there's these
This is going to
intricacies
backfire on them.
of these domino effects you don't know, and I would love to have, economists kind of play this out going, "Okay, if this happens, this, and this."
That's right.
We project
That's right.
just to see it play out. What
Right.
would 2030 look like
I
for
think
us,
we should try to get the Buckeye Institute
I
in
would
here.
yeah,
Somebody like that studies budgets
I would like to hear because
and tells us what is the doomsday scenario.
right, right, exactly. What is it? And again, it's not pro or for, it's like, let's just flesh it out.
Right.
What does it mean?
If
What's it
we
going to
do
do?
this
Yeah,
versus if we
we
do that.
don't. Yeah, exactly. I that'd be great. I would
So
love to,
so
yeah.
somewhere in here is a rational property tax reform measure.
Yes.
And I don't understand why the governor just blithely, and that's my term. And maybe he did this very conscientiously,
Mm.
but when he struck out, so you've got 99 state representatives and 33 state senators. So that is what 132 people came together and fleshed out 67 reforms, and one man just crossed them all out and said no.
And then he puts a task force together
And then he
that
puts
tells him, by the way, the 67, we reduced that to 20, and it's the exact same thing you crossed out. You know,
yes. To me, it's just like, dude, honestly, you could have headed off at the pass.
Yeah.
This whole reform, this whole constitutional amendment thing, you could have headed it off at the pass if you had not gotten rid of these reforms. And I'm not saying those reforms were the end of the story, but they were something.
they could help neuter the constitutional push. That
Honestly,
it is an extreme. It's like, wow.
It's just bad. Really, to
Not
me, it
thinking
was
at
a
all.
bad decision by Governor DeWine. To me, it was just like, I don't
Well,
understand.
And he's supposed to be, the common Joe listening to we citizens. Kind of sounds like you're not.
It kind
It
of
kind of
sounds
sounds
like
you don't get the pain points.
he was more interested, in my opinion. This is Norm Murdoch. I think Governor DeWine was more interested in protecting the bureaucracy of Ohio and its funding sources than he was about the citizens that he's supposed to be the governor of.
Right.
He's not the governor of the infrastructure, for
Right.
God's sakes.
Right.
He is the governor of the people. And I think somewhere along the line, he's more worried about the legacy within the Department of Commerce or the Department of Transportation or something. He needs to worry about his legacy with the people of Ohio and, the common person, the farmer, the white collar job person, the blue collar lunch pail worker. Hey, dude, those people are paying these 8th highest in the country property taxes with the 40th lowest household income.
Right.
If that doesn't describe in a single sentence the problem, then you shouldn't be governor.
Yeah, exactly. The kind of obvious right there is like, but I guess he could look and say, I helped Buckeyes get through COVID. Well, I was there daily with a show.
Oh,
I was there for them at that time, and I'm just exhausted. Now I have to focus on
Fran and I go to the
corporations.
state fair every
Yeah,
year.
yeah.
Come on, man. That's not your job. Your job is
Yeah.
big stuff like the property tax.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway.
Exactly. Yep.
So, good guys, good things, bad things.
Yeah. Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
a good thing, although they lost last night, the Cincinnati Reds, and I can't speak to the Guardians. I don't
Yeah.
follow Cleveland
Yeah.
baseball. Forgive me. Okay. I'm from Cincinnati. So the Cincinnati Reds, for the first time since 2020, are in the postseason mix. They're in the wild card playoffs. I think they've got to win 3 of the games, and they just lost the first one last night. But they're in it, and they're in it against the LA Dodgers, which just destroyed them last night, 10-5. But
who's hungrier? Who's hungrier?
they're playing tonight, game 2 of the wild card. Come on.
Yeah.
So here we go. Go Reds.
Yeah.
I think it's a good thing for the city of Cincinnati. My bad thing is behavior on the highways that our friends at ODOT, Ohio Department of Transportation, put out a warning film yesterday. And they showed several highway camera shots of people I don't know if it's, Apple Maps or Google
Mhm.
Earth or what they're doing, and maybe none of that. But what is happening more and more is people will run up to an exit, not realize, "Oops, I should have taken that exit." And they will stop cold turkey in the middle of an interstate highway, right? And then angle or even put it in reverse and go back and try to get to that exit that they just either about passed or already did pass. And this has caused many pileups and wrecks, and obviously it's lethal. I mean, it's a kind of behavior that's going to get and has gotten people severely injured. So they are saying, this is just common sense. Again, the name of the show,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Dude, go down the highway to the next exit, okay? Flip your frickin' car or truck around and come back up the highway the other way. It'll cost you 2 or 3 minutes or 5 minutes or even 10, but you didn't get killed and you didn't kill anybody. So I would say that's really bad behavior, and good on ODOT for shining a spotlight on this really bad behavior.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, that's
I mean, it's so basic, it
you
blows your
can't
mind.
exactly, you can't even figure that it's not like you're driving through Iowa and your next turnaround is 20 miles away. Ohio pretty much has an exit every 2 to 3 miles. You know,
Just go down the
just
road.
go the next one.
Just go down.
And where did this behavior come from that
Oh,
that you have to turn around now? Is it a knee-jerk reaction?
is it
Is it,
your
"Oh, shit, I missed
is
I
it
missed my exit. I got it."
is it this thing?
Well, that's true. Is it
You
that?
know, like you've got the
But
what
but the phone doesn't yell at you going, "You missed your turn, stupid." It regenerates and it tells you the next exit turn around. So
oh,
even to that point, it's
yeah.
not going blah, 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 blah. You missed your turn.
So what? You missed your turn.
Wow.
Go down the
God.
highway, turn around and come back. For God's
Wow.
sakes.
Wow.
What in the hell is wrong? What is
Jeez,
what is wrong with you?
criminy.
Is your life that urgent? Is everything that out of control?
Exactly.
Are you pregnant and you broke water and you're on the way to the No, you're not.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Nothing. Wow.
You're on the way to, I don't know, picking up some plumbing parts at that Home Depot or whatever your errand is, or
Yeah.
you're 5 minutes late for work. Go ahead and be 10 minutes late.
Ex-
Don't get killed. Don't kill your passengers and don't kill anybody else.
Right. Right.
Duh. Come
Wow.
on.
Wow, exactly. Mine's gonna be a mixture of good and bad. So I'm like, I'll give my age away. I'm creeping up on that magical 59 and a half, where things start to click going, "Oh, I can do this now. I can do this now. I can do this now." And then all of a sudden I add another 6 months going, "Damn, I'm
Golden Buckeye
I'm
card.
go oh my god, I'm going into, and I enjoyed the '50s. I really did. I had a great decade. I loved my '50s. I really, really did. I got to do a lot of things that I would have never dreamed of. And I'm not saying '60s I won't either. I don't mean that.
It's the
But
new 30s
it's just
anyway.
I hope, that sort of thing. But it's just that I'm not really looking forward to the number 60, quite frankly. But I saw the story that there's a 75-year-old power lifter heading to the world championships.
What?
I love it. So
What?
Kate Everett began a long journey from the small town of Republic, Missouri to Cape Town, South Africa to compete in the World Masters Powerlifting
Wow.
Championships. Competitions for athletes aged 40 and above, and she
Wow.
is 75. Good for her. I kind of going,
Oh,
okay.
come to
I love these
Columbus,
stories.
Kate.
Well, and a lot of it is too. Okay, so
If she does the Arnold Classic, hey, Kate,
oh yeah,
if you hear about this and you come to Columbus for the Arnold, we'll put you on the show.
exactly,
We'd love to have you in here.
Yeah, exactly. So that'd be great. That'd be great. So anyway,
What's her
like
name
I said,
again?
Kate Everett. Everett. So
Love
yeah, I love it. Exactly.
Go get them, Kate.
No kidding. Kick
Wow.
ass. Yeah, exactly.
She
So,
could kick my ass. That's
well,
100%. I can't
if
lift
she's
whatever.
lifting if she's lifting 100 pounds, she's doing me.
Yeah.
She's gonna knock me out. So
I tried lifting a box that weighed 72 pounds yesterday, and I thought I was Atlas with the world on my shoulders. It was unbelievable amount of weight. Go, Granny, go. If you're a granny, go.
There you go.
Yeah, love it, Kate.
Love it. Well, thanks for joining us, and enjoy your pumpkin lattes, your pumpkin spice this, your pumpkin pies. It's official.
Can I just say,
you can do it.
buy from a legitimate pumpkin retailer.
Exactly.
Please.
Exactly. Yeah. But enjoy, because now it's your month to do it. And we'll talk next week.
Beware of black market pumpkins.
Black market.